It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening, hope you're doing okay. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant, located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's to get an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage, The Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and you can get a copy of it right now while you're watching or listening to the show. Just go to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting everybody to know all about Tom Molyneux. Great fighter being ripped off. He was ripped off during his life. He's still being ripped off today, all because of the color of his skin. If you're looking to get a signed copy, visit our website, billycboxing.com, and click on the book. You can't miss it. Or you can just come on up to me at a live event. If you see me, chances are I got some book with me. But anyway, you got a bunch of stuff that we're going to be talking about today. First and foremost, Dax Khan will be joining us a little bit later. There's several topics today. First and foremost, we got the fight results from the weekend that we'll talk about. I got a bunch of emails. I got the NFL scores to go over. But a couple of the news items that top my list are a couple. First and foremost, Danny Jacobs signs a deal with Matchroom, and they are going to be featuring him November 4th on HBO as he returns to the ring following his loss to Triple G. I got some opinions on that, but the one that really has my goat today, and don't get me wrong, we had some great fights this weekend, which we'll be talking about just to add to a fantastic year 2017 has been for us for professional boxing. But Badou Jack, we were talking last week with the light heavyweight division in light of the retirement of Andre Ward. And we were talking about, who's the top in the light heavyweight division. And, the two names that rose to the top were Dmitry Bivol and Badou Jack. And we joked about Adonis Stevenson being the odd man left out. This was a guy that clearly ducked everybody, Kovalev and Ward in the same. All of a sudden, lo and behold, it's announced this weekend that Badou Jack vacated his WBA World Light Heavyweight title, in which, by the way, he won 1 month ago. Actually, less than a month ago. On August 28th, when he beat Nathan Cleverly, he gave up the belt because he did not want to fight the mandatory, who is Dmitry Bivol. And, I find this irritating because, in my opinion, Badou Jack is a quality fighter. This was a guy that picked his ass up off the canvas after getting knocked out cold and has done nothing less than get better and better and better. And in my opinion, he's a top 3 light heavyweight right now. Why, abandon the belt where he could, get some distance between him and the rest of the light heavyweight division? I know that he's probably already got a deal in place, most likely looking to fight the aged, over-the-hill Adonis Stevenson. And this was an advised move by none other than the cherry picker, ducking man himself, Floyd Mayweather. I find this irritating because Badou Jack is a quality fighter. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Yeah, you could say that the Bivol-Badou Jack fight could take place down the road, but why do we have to wait? Why does he have to take an easier route to a title? He's already got a belt. Bivol would be coming in as the challenger. Joining me right now from St. Simon's Island is my man, Sal Rocky Cenicola. And Sal, this is like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Why would a guy do this other than not wanting the toughest fight available to him?
Well, that's it. Let's elongate and milk out another win and see what we could do to, regroup and make it even bigger than what it could be today. That might be the strategy. It just it doesn't make sense how you give up one belt to go for another one, and here you go, around the ring around the rosy.
Yeah, I find it I find it appalling, really, because listen. I don't want to talk about Floyd Mayweather, but the thing about Floyd Mayweather is he's always in great shape. He was always in great shape and everything else. But the knock on Floyd, aside from his less than exciting fights because of his style, was that he kind of cherry picked during when he was on the rise. If, for example, instead of fighting Antonio Margarito for $10 million, he chose to fight Carlos Baldomir, which was a much easier fight. So in the history books, it shows that he won a world title. It doesn't show who he avoided to get that belt, and it seems like he's advising Badou Jack to do the same. And we've talked about this many times, Sal. Even if a guy like Badou Jack comes up short, that doesn't. I don't think he would lose value. And then it also makes me start to wonder if the fighters, on one hand, we're supposed to accept the plethora of world title belts. Every fighter has a belt. But now, what are we supposed to think when a fighter says, you know what, yeah, I fought for this belt, now I'm going to kick it to the curb because I don't want to fight the mandatory, I want to go another direction. Doesn't that devalue the belt? What do you think?
Well, I think it does. You just made a great point, You work so hard for the belt, and then all of a sudden you're going to diss it because it doesn't fit in your agenda for long term, whether it's your plans or your training camp's plans to offset and bypass one belt for another, or just an opportunity to avoid fighting this guy for that. And, it doesn't make sense. And like we said, Bill, there are great fighters out there today, and we've been fortunate this year because we've been seeing some great championship bouts and great fights together with just elimination and just matches. It's been a great year. But when you see fighters doing things that really aren't characteristic of the fighters that would say, hey, let me challenge myself, let me rise to the occasion, let me fight the best, let me do something, when it doesn't seem like they're following that path of the ancestors or the history of boxers. That's what they do. They fight. They want to fight the best. And, they try to do this little side dance and things here. It does put a little tarnish on what the main objective is of their career.
Well, it makes you wonder, here they are, they want to pound their chest and say they're a world title holder, but then they kick the belt to the curb to fight for another belt to take an easier fight, or which appears to be an easier fight. At the end of the day, why not collect all the belts?
That's right.
Here's a guy in Badou Jack that, in my opinion, very well could be the best light heavyweight out there. One of the guys standing in his way was the mandatory for WBA, Dmitry Bivol. And, the argument could be, somebody could say, well, hey, Billy C., that's a fight that will happen down the road. There's no sense in having it happen now. And I strongly disagree. I don't think fighters should cherry pick their way to titles or money or whatever. I think that when they choose, and this was something that we're always talking about, when they choose a sanctioning body to work with, and that's what they're doing. They're choosing it. They're ranked in their sanctioning body. They get ranked. They become a mandatory. They fight for eliminations, like you suggest. And they've chosen that sanctioning body because once they do that, the other sanctioning bodies avoid them like the plague. So here, Jack decides to make a run at the WBA belt, gets a title shot against Cleverly, dominates the fight, wins the belt, and now doesn't like the mandatory that he has to fight in Bivol. It doesn't look good for Badou Jack, at least in my opinion, Sal.
No, it does not, because hey, guess what? You just spelled it out black and white, because he doesn't want to fight Bivol, and basically, because otherwise he'd be grasping at that opportunity. Say, hey, let's get things going, and let me prove to everybody I'm the best one, and I deserve this belt or that belt. It's like we were saying about Triple G and Canelo Alvarez. If they have that rematch on Cinco de Mayo, that's fine. But in the meantime, I would love to see Triple G get that last remaining belt from Billy Joe Saunders and, have them unified. That's it.
Another main news topic I wanted to get to before we get to the fight results from the weekend, and man, we were treated to some great fights this weekend. Matchroom has inked a deal with Daniel Jacobs. They talked about it on the HBO broadcast over the weekend. Apparently, he has signed a multi-fight deal with HBO, and he'll be kicking it off November 4th against an opponent to be determined. Now, we knew that he was coming back on the 4th, but I was under the impression he was fighting on the undercard of Deontay Wilder and Luis Ortiz. As far as I remember, that fight is also on November 4th. I don't have my schedule in front of me. And I think that this is a huge mistake from at least a television ratings perspective. Why he would go up against, and be as it may, on HBO in a comeback fight, which, let's be real, Sal, most likely it's going to be against an opponent that they know he's going to do well against, when he's going to be competing against a fight that we're all dying to see. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make business sense to me. Although, I like the fact that Danny Jacobs has signed with Matchroom, because this kind of goes with some things that Dax has been saying for a while about the European promoters seemingly taking over the sport, which I say more power to them. The U.S. promoters just are afraid to pull the trigger. But what's your thoughts on him possibly going up against Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz the same night on different networks?
Well, again, we've got to look at it. We had the same conflict, we thought, with the Floyd Mayweather farce when he fought that Irish guy. Oh, Conor McGregor, I remember. And remember, we thought there was going to be a card that was going to be shown earlier that was also going to be taking place the same night. Well, as it turned out, because of the hours difference in the UK, it did work out where both shows were giving the proper attention, and there wasn't no conflict between the two shows. This might be the case because that's a great showcase. I mean, we want to see both these fights. I mean, they're going to be very significant, and I think with the timing on the same evening, it's a shame they couldn't consolidate and make it a super powerhouse. I guess just to showcase it. But if they're going to be the same time and they're going to conflict with each other, it's no good. And Danny Jacobs, like we were saying, man, he didn't do anything but help his career when he fought Triple G. I mean, he looked good, and we knew if he had that defeat on his record, it wasn't going to hurt him. And this is his time to shine. This is his place to showcase, and this is going to be him with a whole resurgence. And Danny Jacobs is a great fighter, and that we saw when he fought Triple G. So I think he's on his way. But it's a shame that we may have to decide which fight we want to see.
I think you got the fights confused a little bit. The night of Mayweather-McGregor was HBO went up against him with Kodo Kamagagi. And there's no way that, and despite Miguel Cotto's drawing power, there's no way that they were going to beat Floyd Mayweather against McGregor, although we haven't gotten any official numbers, which I find strange still, on the pay-per-view buys. But this is a big difference. It's no pay-per-view involved, and you got basically Showtime going up against HBO. And as much as Daniel Jacobs, and I agree with you 100%, Daniel Jacobs his value has went up even in defeat with Triple G. There's no way that he's going to be. I don't care if he was. He would have to be fighting Triple G again in order to compete against Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz, and even that I don't think would help. Everybody wants to see heavyweights, and Deontay Wilder, at least in my opinion, will be in his first real tough fight, and I can't wait to see it. So we'll have to wait to see what happens. One other thing I want to mention before we get to some fight results is there was a fight card scheduled for this Thursday, the 28th, from Real Deal Sports, which was going to take place in Louisville. Now, Real Deal is Evander Holyfield's promotional company, but put an asterisk next to that. They announced the chief operating officer, Eric Bentley, who doesn't know a fish hook, a left hook from a fish hook. This was a guy that let's be real, the real guy running Real Deal Sports is not Evander Holyfield. It's Sal Musumeci, who's related to Eric Bentley. This is all one of those deals where they used Evander Holyfield's name, and now they're canceling the fight card, and everybody's looking at Evander Holyfield. And I'll tell you why they're canceling this fight card, and I don't know this. Let me rephrase that. I am giving you my opinion of why they're canceling this fight card. Eric Bentley, the guy that really doesn't know anything about the sport of boxing, says, and I quote, "On behalf of Real Deal Sports and Entertainment, we extend our sincerest apologies to the fighters who were scheduled to fight and compete, and also the fans who had purchased tickets, because due to some overwhelming and unresolved logistical issues, we have to regretfully cancel our event." I think what he's trying to say, Sal, is they didn't sell any tickets yet. And, somebody didn't come through with a check, because that's the MO of Sal Musumeci all the time. So, I mean, you listen, and I'm not going to blame him for not going through with a show that they're going to lose their collective arses with. But, here's where a guy like Evander Holyfield, he's the front runner. He's the name on this, and he's the one that's going to get the blurb that, oh, God, he had to pull out of a fight. I don't know, man. I think these guys should think twice about lending their names. If he wanted to do it all on his own, different story. But lend your name and then let somebody else drive the bus. I don't know about that, Sal.
I don't know. It's a hard thing to do. I wouldn't do it. And, with the old duck syndrome, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, you better slip that punch and duck. Well,
yeah. No, you better. Yeah, I guess you're waking up.
About it.
I guess the coffee's kicking in. But some fights this weekend on HBO in an extremely entertaining fight. Actually, all the fights this week, at least the ones I saw, were all extremely entertaining. WBA lightweight champ Jorge Linares improved to 43-3 with 27 knockouts when he scored a 12-round split decision over Luke Campbell at the Felt Forum in California. Campbell hit the deck in the second round, which I think carried Linares to get the W. One judge scored at 115-113 for Campbell. One had it 114-113, and the other had it 115-112, both for Linares, to give him the split decision win. Tough fight to score. Linares came out in the beginning looking like Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, the guy just was fast and accurate and had some pop, and then kind of ran out of gas, or I don't know what happened to him. But I thought Luke Campbell took control. And to be honest with you, I too scored the fight 115-113 for Campbell. But either way, it was an extremely close fight. Campbell drops the second fight in his career. He's now 17-2. And during the fight, it was funny. They kept showing Luke Campbell's wife. And, they were saying, how she didn't want Luke Campbell to turn pro and all of this stuff. Well, it certainly didn't look that way every time the camera was on her. She was viciously cheering for her hubby, and it was good to see. And I'll tell you, these British fighters, Sal, really attract the fan. Their fans travel. That's something that I don't know if American fighters can honestly say. I mean, they had a lot of European, specifically English fight fans in the arena on Saturday night to cheer on Luke Campbell.
That's great, and there wasn't any one-sided judging on the card like a 118 to 110, were there?
No, there was nothing like that. Nothing like that.
What a difference a week makes.
Yeah. Well, also on Saturday night in the World Boxing Super Series, in a fight that we all thought was going to be a knockout, drag-out fight. Well, the knockout part was right because the WBA Cruiserweight champ, Unier Dorticos, improved to 22-0 with 21 knockouts when he scored a second-round knockout. I'm talking knockout, possibly knockout of the year of Dmitry Kutuzov, who drops the second fight in his career. He's now 21-2. This fight took place in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. No U.S. TV, but you were able to see it on the stream. What a fight. If you missed it, go back and watch it because what a knockout this was. 2 minutes and 10 seconds was the official time of the stoppage. Now Dorticos will fight the winner of the Murat Gassiov and Krzysztof Lodzarek matchup. And don't forget, we got another matchup coming this weekend, which is one that I can't wait to see. Mike Perez going up against Marius Briedis, which is another one. And I think that would be, in addition to the Lodzarek Gassiov fight, that will be the last cruiserweight one. So we will keep our eyes open for that. Also on that card, Keith Tappy improved to 18-1 with 11 knockouts when he won a 10-round unanimous decision over former world title challenger Latif Coyote, who just never lived up to all the hype. He drops to 21-2 with 21 knockouts. This was this fight was on the undercard of the Dorticos fight. 100-89 twice and 99-90 with the way the judges scored that one. And Nonito Donaire made his comeback. He improved to 38-4 when he scored a 10-round unanimous decision over Ruben Garcia Hernandez, 100-90, 97-93, 99-91. Donaire is 34 years old already, Sal, and looking to make another title run. But Latif Coyote never lived up to the hype, man. Never lived it up.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a shame, too, because, you had people supporting him and looking for him to just bust out, but never happened.
I think the biggest mistake he ever made was trying to make a run at the heavyweight division and just fell short with that. Went back to the cruiserweight division. And, he was under the guidance of Freddie Roach. And here's an example. Some trainers evolve into being a hired gun, a guy that takes a fighter that's already established and builds on some traits they see or some talents or whatever. And in this case, I think it showed that Latif Coyote gained nothing by working with Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach, offensive-minded, but Latif Coyote needed to be taught the basics, needed to be taught how to defend himself, how to set his opponents up. He never got that. He relied on punching power alone, and would have liked to have seen him go a different route. Over in the heavyweight division, the WBO heavyweight champion, Joseph Parker, improved to 24-0 with 18 knockouts when he retained his title against Hughie Fury, who had been previously unbeaten and ranked number 1 by the WBO. We broke that fight down on Friday.
I think we called that fight.
Well, we called Joseph Parker, but he won the fight in a close decision, 118, 110 twice. And one judge had it even, 114, 114. If you watch the fight, it was a boring fight. Joseph Parker showed, and he's calling out AJ, Anthony Joshua, after this fight, which he doesn't stand a chance. This is my hang-up when fighters get to be champions too quickly. Joseph Parker, no offense against him. But the guy hasn't developed correctly. And Hughie Fury definitely didn't develop correctly either. Never fought anybody, even as tough as Joseph Parker has fought. But his team is protesting the fight. And his promoter, Mick Hennessy, said, and I quote, "This is corruption at its highest level. I thought it was an absolute master class, shades of Muhammad Ali performance by Hughie Fury. Parker wasn't even in this fight. One of the worst decisions I've ever seen. Beautiful boxing by Hughie, and I can't see why the judges robbed this poor young lad. It's disgusting. I'm going to lodge an appeal to the WBO straight away." Listen, I watched the fight. When Muhammad Ali did what he refers to as backpedaling, or when we refer to backpedaling, here's the difference. Muhammad Ali backpedaled while he was throwing and connecting with punches. And not only was he throwing and connecting punches, he was landing solid punches all at the same time. Fury did not do that. Fury did move. He hit and he moved backwards, similar to Floyd Mayweather. But the ability to hit effectively on the move is what guys like Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, etc., all were able to do. And by the way, if Canelo Alvarez, I said this all along, if Canelo Alvarez would have been able to do that, he would have beat Triple G. So, just by hitting a guy and backpedaling out of harm's way does not mean you win the fight. Please don't ever compare Muhammad Ali to Hughie Fury. That's a disgrace. And the truth of the matter is that you got to be able to hit on the move effectively, Sal. I mean, give me a break. Comparing him to Ali and saying that his performance was similar to Ali, come on. You can't hit somebody with a jab and run to the other corner of the ring. Yes, Floyd Mayweather did it, but you know what? Floyd Mayweather also was a counterpuncher. He did counterpunch at times, and Hughie Fury did not. I'm sorry, but if you're going to hit on the move, it's got to be effective punches.
Absolutely. Plus, Hughie Fury's 100 pounds heavier. Just thought to add that.
I'm glad you reminded me of that. Hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, we got some fights that took place on Friday night, and we will get you all caught up on that. I got a bunch of emails to read. All of that's coming up in about 2.
Billy C will be right back.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and 3-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-493-9652 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-493-9652 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-493-9652.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Are you?
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks, like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And my man, Coach, he's always on the ball. He's up in the chat room. If you're watching or listening from a stream, you got, you can, come on over to the chat room that we monitor and comment on. But my man, Coach, is always on the ball. He just said that he heard that the Daniel Jacobs return to the ring will be the following week, November 11th, which makes a lot more sense. So up until just now, they were talking about him returning on the 4th. So I'm glad that Coach has filled us in on that. And speaking of fights, Friday night on ESPN, we had a couple of really good title fights. WBO featherweight champ Oscar Valdez defended his title in... Let me tell you something. What an exciting, hard-fought fight against Genesis Cervania, who loses for the first time in his career. Valdez improves to 23-0 with 19 knockouts. Cervania drops to 29-1 with 12 knockouts. And speaking of dropping, they both hit the canvas. Valdez took a shot in round 4, and he ended up dropping Cervania in round 5. And they both went back and forth, and what a great fight. I loved every minute of it. I saw Valdez some holes in his game. They need to teach him a little bit more head movement and defense. He has been overpowering opponents. This was not the case with Cervania on Friday night. And, when we were breaking down this fight, this guy was ranked, double digits. And you say to yourself, how are they picking him? But, man, did he fight well. 116, 110, 119, 111, 117, 109 with the way the judges scored that one. I'm not so sure that the fight was that far apart. I mean, Sal, I know you didn't get a chance to watch it, but I don't know, man. I thought it was a little closer. It seemed like the harder punches that were being landed were actually being landed by Cervania. And the thing I really enjoyed about Cervania was that he had gotten the timing down with Valdez, who was lunging and throwing wide punches, trying to put, knockout on every single punch. And as the fight wore on, Cervania was picking his shots and was counterpunching while he was delivering, while Valdez was trying to deliver his punches from wide angles. I mean, a corner, I guess they're going to have to go back to the drawing board, but, can you break that habit of being, going for the knockout with wide punches? I mean, is it a hard habit to break or what?
No, you got to have schooling and drilling. I mean, you take those wide punches, sure, you're going to throw a haymaker, but, you're going to see the guy with his hands up, boom, throwing straight punches, slipping and moving. And, you got to modify it. You got to come in a little bit. You got to throw the straighter punches. And you've got to, let's open up. You open up, you're going to get hit. So, it's funny. But you can lessen that margin of just being broad and open. You can, but it takes time. It takes discipline. And, it could be one fight, one trainer to drill it and to help him use his body to leverage, and everything else, but to make up for the roundhouse, if you will. But, it's just sitting down on the punches and delivering them execution-wise, with authority.
In the other title fight that was, I tell you the truth, I want to see more of both of these guys. That's
well,
for
it's
sure.
exciting. And they're both undefeated, and it was something that definitely both fighters are leveraged for a pretty good career.
Something you should watch. You should go back and watch the fight.
I'm going to watch that fight. Yeah,
and this one too, because the co-main event that was on this ESPN card Friday night featured unbeaten super middleweight champ, WBO super middleweight champ Gilberto Ramirez. He improved to 36-0 with 24 knockouts, and he fought a Jesse Hart that I give a lot of credit to. I did not think that Jesse Hart was going to last this long, and Jesse Hart showed plenty of heart. He was dropped in this fight, in twice, to be honest with you, in the second round, and somehow he came back, and I thought he was giving Ramirez all he could handle. And as a matter of fact, he stunned Ramirez a couple of times. At the end, it seemed like Jesse Hart had more energy towards the end of that fight. Ramirez improved to 36-0 with 24 knockouts. Jesse Hart loses for the first time in his career, 22-1 with 18 knockouts, 115, 112 twice, 114, 113, all in favor of Ramirez. But, when a fighter performs as well as Jesse Hart did, these are the types of fights that you can't have their value go down. And in my opinion, Jesse Hart's value went up. And this is all, now I broke these fights down on Friday, this is all coming without ever fighting anybody too tough. I mean, I give Jesse Hart a lot of credit. And I think, unfortunately for him, the fight and his performance is going to catapult him to tougher fights. So Jesse Hart better get back on his A game. And not that he didn't give it or show it on Friday night. Two great fights. Also on this card that we didn't get to see, Michael Conlan, the 2012 and 2016 Olympian, improved to 4-0 with 4 knockouts when he knocked out Kenny Guzman, who loses for the first time in his career at 2 minutes and 59 seconds of the second round. Guzman drops to 3-1. And also 2016 Olympic gold medalist Robinson Canseco improved to 5-4 with 4 knockouts when he stopped Carlos Osorio when he injured his shoulder after the third round. One other fight I want to mention, Joey Dwejko, a guy that I really think should be in a cruiserweight division, knocked out Demetrius Banks in a couple of rounds on Friday, 1 minute and 22 seconds of the third round. Joey improves to 18-4-4. Demetrius Banks drops to 9-2. The official time was 1 minute and 22 seconds of the third round. My opinion on this fight is Joey Dwejko, he looked fat. I mean, he looked fat. He was never a guy that was chiseled or anything like that. Like I said on Friday, I just feel he should be in the cruiserweight division, but he looked fat. And you know what I think is going to happen here, Sal? I think that they're building him up. He signed with a new promoter. They got him a win against a 9-1 guy that looks good. I really think that they're going to feed him to a fighter, because he's got an impressive record. That's going to hurt him. I think they're going to put him in with a guy that's going to be too big and too strong. I'm nervous about that for Joey Dwejko, and the only reason why I feel that way is because I've met him and his father, and they're really nice guys. And I think he's in the wrong division. I would love to see him lose, 30, 40 pounds, which he could very easily. I mean, he's overweight, and fighting the cruiserweight division. A good fight I would like to see him fight is Danny Batchelder, another fighter that started out at middleweight and fighting at heavyweight now. But I don't know, man. I think they're going to feed him to another fighter. What do you think?
Probably will, and that's what happens. You keep someone under wraps like that, and you feed him, easy opponents, and hopefully when he steps in the ring for the real deal one day, he could rise to the occasion and he could pull everything out of the bag. And some fighters can do that, some fighters can't. It's just going to be a matter of time and what we see from this guy and how he's developing.
Yeah, well, I think they're just creating I just think they're creating an opponent. But anyway, hey, NFL scores. How about that?
NFL.
We got the Jaguars beat the Ravens early. They were over in London, 44-7. What a shocker that was. I got beat up on my football picks this week, but Jaguars beat the Ravens 44-7. The Bills beat the Broncos 26-16. It was another upset, in my opinion. In overtime, another upset. The Bears beat the Steelers 23-17 in overtime. Wow. And I was talking to a longtime Steeler fan, and I go, who you playing this week? She says, the Bears. And I said, the Steelers should be okay. She says, you know what? For some reason, the Bears always play the Steelers really well. I'm nervous about the game. She was right. They lost the game 23-17. The Falcons hung on to beat the Lions 30-26 in a very exciting game. The Colts beat the Browns 31-28. The Browns were down 31-7, I think, or 28-7 at one point in this game, and fought back. They're a little better than their record suggests. The Vikings beat the Buccaneers 34-17. The Patriots. If anybody thinks that Tom Brady is finished, or the team isn't going to be good, or Bill Belichick has softened, forget about it. The Texans have a killer defense, and they were winning this game. But the Patriots, behind Tom Brady and some great catches, with under a minute to go, come back and win the game 36-33. In an exciting finish. As much as I hate the Patriots, I had to admit, exciting finish. And talking about another exciting finish, the Giants are 0-3. The Eagles beat them with no time on the clock, 27-24. And the Giants were down 14-0 in this game. And then all of a sudden, Eli Manning and the rest of the receivers woke up, or Eli Manning and his receivers woke up and made a game of it. But at the end, they got the L. The Saints beat the Panthers 34-13. Titans beat the Seahawks 33-27. In another overtime game, the Packers squeaked by the Bengals. The Bengals were having their way earlier in this game, but the Packers came on to win in overtime, 27-24. Chiefs undefeated, 3-0, 24-10 over the Chargers. The Redskins beat the Raiders, which I was surprised at. I mean, the Redskins are a good team, but I think the Raiders are one of the best, 27-10. And the Jets shocked me, and I hope they didn't shock themselves. And they shocked the Dolphins, who I thought was going to slap the Jets into next week. The Jets won 20-6. And let me tell you something. This guy McNown, he looks pretty good. I mean, the no-name receiver core that the Jets have, all were making some fantastic catches. This guy was making some great throws. The defense came to play. I mean, I don't know if this was just a fluke or if somebody else was dressed as the Jets on Sunday. I don't know, but the Jets looked good. They got me hoping. They got me dreaming. They got me thinking that they could be competitive. So I don't know, man. I don't want to have my bubble bursted, but it was very exciting to watch as a Jet fan who I thought the Jets wouldn't even win 3 games this year. But Monday Night Football, Sal. Cowboys against the Cardinals. They're going to the desert to play the Cardinals. The Cowboys are favored by 3 points. I'm officially picking the Cowboys -3. How do you see this game?
I see the Cowboys also being dominant. I think they'll win.
I think the Cardinals are an underrated team, but the Cowboys got something to prove. They lost last week, so we'll see what happens. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I got a bunch of emails to read, including a War and Peace version from my man Mike from Michigan. So don't go nowhere. We'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Billy C will be right back.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. If you or a loved one have had hernia repair surgery with mesh reinforcement and suffered infection, chronic pain, mesh migration, mesh failure, organ damage, or needed additional surgery, call the Rely On Group right now. You may be eligible to receive a cash award and compensation for your medical expenses. Your voice deserves to be heard. Call the Rely On Group to be connected with a personal injury attorney for a free consultation. Call 800-715-4869. That's 800-715-4869.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and three-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-493-9652 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-493-9652 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-493-9652.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. And it's that time again. We are going to be doing some email readings. Well, that didn't sound right, but we got some emails. You ready, Sal?
I am ready for you, Bill.
All right, we got. Let's see. We got our first one here is from. I got a real long one from our buddy Mike from Michigan, which I haven't read yet. I just see it's very long. So let's get this one out of the way first. This is from Chip, my man Mitch. He says, my inside source tells me the Triple G versus Nello fight might reach over the 2 million view mark. He says, if true, I'll bring up 3 things. 1, the best rivalry over the years has been Puerto Rico versus Mexico. So Cotto versus Nello did 900,000, yet Triple G was criticized for not being a pay-per-view guy. Well, if they did over 2 million, you can credit Canelo, yes, but more must go for the fans that wanted to see if Triple G was the real deal. I'm giving Triple G more credit for the numbers. And guess what, Billy C? That puts him right up there with Mayweather versus Oscar, Mayweather versus Canelo. So how's that for their asses? He says, number 2, Triple G versus Nello came weeks after people forked out $100 for the McGregor thing. It was only a few weeks before Triple G and Canelo. Number 3, parts of Texas and a majority of Florida and parts of Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and all of Puerto Rico and outlying areas had little or no power, so they couldn't even buy the fight. That's a great point, too, by the way.
Great point. I mean, I just got my power back Saturday, so I was able to get the fight Saturday night, but I didn't have internet or TV or any electricity until Saturday, the day of the fight. How do you like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's wild. But he says, by the way, Billy, if we hit 2 million, despite these things, this will be huge. And it'll be a post-Mayweather era number. If true, of course, let the post-Mayweather era begin. All the BS started by calling him Little G means nothing. He has to bow down to Triple G now. I hope my source is good, or even 1.3 million is still good. Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, nobody, it's going to be quite some time before somebody can generate the numbers that Floyd has with pay-per-view. It is what it is. Just as many people wanted to see Floyd get knocked the F out and bought it. And unfortunately, Floyd never engaged with anyone except for his last fight. He engaged with a guy who never fought before, but that's besides the point. My man Mitch says, hey, this whole thing about Daniel Jacobs and HBO and Matchroom and PBC, does this mean Heyman is cutting his roster and PBC is about to end? He says, does this mean that Heyman is infiltrating HBO and making a power move by coming back now that Top Rank is gone? Does this mean quid pro quo thing between Hearn and Heyman where one guy owed the other a favor? Or Ford, Jacob seems like a decent commentator. Is this HBO bringing him in to eventually replace Roy Jones Jr.? So many interesting questions from my man.
A lot of good questions.
I mean, I think somebody needs to replace Roy Jones. I think he's terrible. Hey, listen, the bottom line is this, Sal. Al Heyman, and the misconception about Al Heyman was that he was in boxing for the good of the fighters. That's bullshit. He was in the sport of boxing for the good of Al Heyman. And this just indicates that this is true. The PBC did not, that whole PBC model of making money and having the networks pay them, etc., it fizzled, it died, it did not work. So Al Heyman, who still has 300 fighters signed under contract, he wants to keep them busy. People keep forgetting that all the deals and the overpaid checks that that the fighters were getting, he was getting his cut, Sal. So why wouldn't he direct them to HBO? It doesn't mean that he's not in their pocket. He's going to still make his money, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's always these concessions that go on whenever you can leverage yourself and get a profit.
Yeah, I mean, come on. At the end of the day, Al Heyman wants to take care of Al Heyman. Anybody that really thought that he was all about the fighters is just stupid. It's stupid. Anyway, it's stupid. It's stupid. All right. Here we go, Sal. Get ready.
Okay.
We got a long
I'm ready.
We may have to stop periodically.
Are we going to have a break in between?
We may have to. I mean, it's a long
Okay. Oh, boy.
It's from Mike from Michigan. He says, sorry I haven't been as active as much as I should have been, but I agree with Teddy Atlas to a degree. He says, you know what happened Saturday. Triple G, and he wrote this on Sunday, so he meant last Saturday. Triple G beat Canelo. And by the way, if you guys had missed Triple G Canelo, they showed it twice this past weekend. Once before the Linares fight, and then Sunday morning at 9 a.m. HBO replayed that. Anyway, he says Triple G beat Canelo by outworking him, and Canelo faded as he always has and always will do, even with Mexico's best pharmacies, as said by Eric Morales. He says, anyways, my point is this. The world sucks. I just lost my soul to boxing last Saturday, and however crazy I believe Teddy Atlas to be, I cannot deny his passion for speaking his mind. As a young man, I remember watching Augustus versus Burton because it was in my home state and my father was still alive, and we were just so happy that Friday night fights existed after USA dropped Tuesday night fights. And I saw Burton get beat from start to finish, and I remember so vividly in my young head, I remember thinking, I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't like the taunting and the showboating, but Augustus, one of the most underrated fighters ever, on par with my opinion with Andrew Golota in his prime, along with Darnell Boone and Ezra Charles, but Augustus won that fight. Not even a need for a scorecard. And I rewatched it 15 years later, and again now. And I just have to give credit where credit's due. Teddy Atlas went insane when the scores were read because I was in that arena, and my young mind didn't understand what happened. We can make all the jokes about Teddy Atlas, his fireman pep talk. Yeah, I guess I did get on him a little bad with that. You know what firemen do? You know what firemen do, Teddy? Put out fires. But anyway, I remember when he was doing that, He was doing that to Timothy Bradley, and I was making fun of him. I'm going, fireman, you know what firemen do? You know what firemen do? Put out fires, coach? No, they go in there and they fight. Oh, okay. Anyway, he says sometimes, and his sometimes insane reactions, but I can only do one thing and give him credit for looking into the camera, job on the line, and saying people are going to be upset, but frankly, I don't care. As crazy as he is, I believe he's a knowledgeable person who, to me, is the only one who really calls out bad cards, bad decisions, and has conviction that may lead him to an early grave due to his passion and his possessiveness and his assessments of fights. You have to respect a man with enough balls to call it like he sees it. Stand by it and continue to be correct on corruption in boxing. What pisses me off the absolute most is not that Triple G lost, because I scored the fight 3 times and twice on mute due to Max Kellerman and Roy Jones just making me sick. Every single word that came out of Teddy's mouth last Saturday evening or Sunday morning, I agreed with the exception of the scorecard. I had it 116-112 in a competitive match. The sad thing is I feel for Triple G. He takes on Canelo, he takes on Jacobs, which Canelo never will. Then he takes on Canelo. Don't give me any BS about his resume anymore. I thought he beat Jacobs, but I also believe Jacobs would be a better fighter than Canelo. Triple G showed his age to me, but you can't score a fight for somebody who fought to survive and got on his bike for 3/4 of the fight. Does it not speak volumes? Triple G was booed when he walked into the arena, and then Canelo was cheered. Then when the fight happened, scores are read, and the pro-Canelo crowd booed after the fight. That speaks volumes, and life isn't fair, Billy. But I've been laid off and on all year long, struggled to get by, lost a loved one, and it's not fair, but I take it on the chin like a man does, and I force a smile and get to my next contract the next day. I've had a horrible year, but I'm just so mad that Triple G Canelo outcome has changed my perception of this world. No matter how many times you stick to your morals, principles, integrity, in the end, it doesn't matter. And I, for one, know Triple G is slower, less of what he was a couple of years ago. But excuse this, F Max Kellerman, Jim Lampley, and Roy Jones Jr. for protecting their investment. And F B-Hop and Oscar and Gomez, because Oscar and B-Hop, especially B-Hop, all claims all this BS about integrity, and he's got none. I have him in my list of greats, but I'm sick of his warped version of his fighter. Billy, I know this is long, but it's been so long since I've read an email, and I really appreciate it you read it. I have so much more to say, but I'll leave you with one last thing. Triple G showed his age and discipline, which is what we all knew Golden Boy was waiting for, but he found a way to win. You know that. Canelo is in his absolute prime, and I don't give a damn what people say that this fight was at middleweight, because I'm not blind. I know Lara beat him. Floyd took him to school, but I do believe he barely beat Trout. The knockdown was the deciding factor for me. Golden Boy took Triple G, lowballed him. He took the fight anyways, found a way to win, not to survive, but to win. Canelo can get better with his stamina problems. If he hasn't done that since the start of his career, I don't think it's going to get better. So, of course, after all the BS and all the politics that's went wrong with boxing, Canelo needs time to rest while Triple G wants to fight in December. And if that's not obvious, completely obvious to any knowledgeable fan, that boxing fans should really pick a different sport. The challenger, the money guy, Canelo, got his diva demands, got his money, and didn't lose, even though we all know he lost. What did Triple G get? You only one positive thing I can think of is the reaction to the crowd, and when Triple G spoke, he spoke like a gentleman, and I respect that. Canelo came off as a whiny diva-ass bitch. I'm sorry, man. I know this is long, but the last thing is I don't care that Andre Ward retired, because I never cared to see him fight anyway. Triple G can sell out an arena pretty much anywhere, maybe not get the extreme pay-per-view buys, but what he sells out arenas and puts his asses in seats, Andre Ward does none of that and refuses to fight anywhere outside of his local area, and he very much so lost the first Kovalev fight. That's a different topic for a different day, but I saw on YouTube and your shell saying, does anybody care if Andre Ward retired? My answer is no. Hope all is well. Coming after a quick chat last week's fight. He does have another comment, but I will read in a second. But, my quick thought here about Teddy Atlas, Sal, is I'm not against Teddy Atlas speaking his mind, because I respect that too. My hang-up with Teddy Atlas is that his opinion is right and no one else's is. In other words, if you don't agree with Teddy, you're wrong. And in this sport, you got to be open-minded. I mean, you and I don't agree on everything all the time, but at least we hear each other out. And that's what Teddy does not do.
Well, of course. And, we have a difference of opinion. We could debate the issues and talk about it intelligently and make our points. And, that's what gives us the perspective of why we think we're right. And, Teddy could at least empathize and try to listen to another view or another opinion and then take and process, what he's heard and then come back with an answer. But that's communication. That's all.
Mike from Michigan has one more thing, like Colombo would do.
Well,
he says, I don't hear a lot of people talking about the candor or temperament of the interviews between both fighters. I have much more respect for Triple G due to his humble after-fight thoughts when he was somewhat disappointed about the fans not getting a better fight. Canelo, to me, sounded like a poor, bad sport. Character goes a long way. And to me, I believe the fans in that arena appreciated Triple G's comments far more than Canelo's comments, which were crass, cold, and it looked to me like everyone sounded like a biatch. I'd like people to talk about that a little more. Max Kellerman, among everybody else besides Harold Letterman, were rude and wrong. Kellerman, quote, he seems to want to stay still. When you're talking to Canelo with Max Kellerman with a dumbass smirk on his face, he misunderstood. What Triple G meant was that he wanted a memorable fight where both guys gave a great show. And since Canelo talked all this crap about knocking Triple G out, Triple G felt more power from Brook and Jacobs, in Mike's opinion, and kept stalking and stalking. He definitely showed his age, but he definitely also showed tremendous chin and phenomenal heart and said all the right things after the fight, and Canelo didn't. I just wish people would talk about that a little more. Thanks for the email, and please in the future don't make them as long. But that is a true statement, Sal, and we've watched that fight several times, and Canelo actually thought he won the fight.
I can't believe it.
Why don't fighters just say? And this was my big hang-up with Manny Pacquiao when he fought Mayweather. I mean, why can't a fighter just say, in Manny's case, Manny would have, in my opinion, would have made him look a lot better if he just said, Floyd was the better man tonight, and give Floyd the credit. Instead, he said, I hurt my shoulder and I couldn't do it. I thought I won the fight with a hurt shoulder. I mean, why can't they just give credit where credit's due, Sal? What's the problem?
Well, fighters have big egos, and the truth of the matter is, they would be better off. Hey, guess what? I did my best tonight, and I didn't expect to find in my opposition that some of the things that nullified my moving into the direction I felt I won. But hey, we'll live another day, and we'll get to fight another day. And I just came up short tonight. I'm sorry. I disappointed myself. I let myself down. How's that sound?
And Canelo, not only did he say he was going to knock out Triple G, but he was saying in press conferences and quotes that we did leading up to the fight that he says, I'm going for the knockout. I just hope Triple G does his part. It's all about the dance partner. I mean, these were his words.
I know they
got to do
I
this.
Know they were. We read them.
I know, and he's saying he's got to dance with me. He's got to do this. He's got to do that. And talk about dancing. He had his dancing shoes on. He was running around that ring like he was on a tricycle.
He was doing a two-step Charlie out of the way.
But again, the bottom line is if the guy could hit effectively on the move, a la Ali, not like Hughie Fury, he could have won the fight. We got one more email. This one's from our buddy Joel. He says, hey, Billy C and Sal, I was curious of what your guys' thoughts were on Danny Jacobs signing a promotional deal with Eddie Hearn, which led to Jacobs signing a multi-fight deal with HBO. I was confused at first if Heyman was still involved, but as I found out, Heyman is still his advisor. Do you think we will see more high-profile boxers that work with Al Heyman jump from Showtime to HBO, or do you think it'll be far and few in between? I hope with the extra money HBO now has without Top Rank on their network, they can spend the money and sign select fighters to their network to create some competition again between Showtime and HBO. What's your thoughts? Let me explain something first. First of all, the truth of the matter is that, like I said earlier, Al Heyman, he's an advisor. He makes money for the best deals that he can get his fighters. So he's going to try to get them the best deals, you would think. Yes, he had a marriage with Showtime, and he was double dipping and all of that because he's just as much of a crook as anybody else. And as far as HBO having extra money because Top Rank's not with them anymore, what are you talking about? HBO and Showtime and ESPN, they have budgets they put in place before the year starts. And they say, this is how much we're going to spend on boxing. And then the powers that be take that figure and they spread it out over a season. You know, if Top Rank signs a deal with ESPN, that doesn't mean that HBO all of a sudden has extra money. They may have more money to work with another promoter because Top Rank is with someone else, if that's what you mean. But it's not like, really, I personally don't think that the networks care. I think in a sense, HBO and Showtime are their own promoters. That's the other part of the puzzle that people don't understand. They promote fighters. They sign deals with fighters. Isn't that a promoter? They're getting to promote without a promoter's license. I mean, what do you think, Sal?
Well, you just made a good point. Exactly that. They get to promote without a promoter's license. But the bottom line is, these companies, they look to align themselves and do the best they can to sign the best fighters that are going to be marketable. They, like I said a long time ago, these fighters today, as they were yesterday, they're commodities. They sell. They're sizzle. They want to put the fans in the seats. They want to have the networks come alive when people can view in. So they're going to look to leverage and align themselves with the most popular fighters on the planet.
Al Heyman, the big misconception. First of all, he made a big mistake with the PBC. He thought that if they bought the time, and that's what they did for that first year.
You said this from day one.
I know. And he bought the time. Now, if he bought the time and then was going to build up the fighters and then culminate to a pay-per-view, I think that blueprint would have worked. But that's not what he thought. He thought that he buys the time, he floods the networks with PBC, and then the ratings would be so high that the following year, the networks would be throwing money at him to bring his production. It did not work. And all we had to do was look in the history books and see that it never worked that way. The networks don't care. ESPN couldn't wait to get out of Friday night fights. They were losing tons of money. Now look what they've done. They've taken and signed a deal with Top Rank to show some decent fights, and they get to spread it out. And it doesn't interfere with their other programming. So in a way, they saved money. But at the end of the day, a lot of misconceptions about Al Heyman and the PBC was it was all about taking care of the fighters. Oh, look, he signed all these guys. Oh, look, they're making more money. They're fighting weaker fights. Oh, it's great for the fighters. Great, great, great. In a way, if a fighter was going to make $100,000 and he signs with Al Heyman, now he's making $500,000. Yeah, it's better for the fighter. But how many of those fighters haven't fought in literally a couple of years? There's fighters that just vanished out of discussion. That were up and coming, that signed with Al Heyman, they vanished because he could not possibly keep them all busy. The other thing is like I said earlier, Sal, Al Heyman is a businessman. He's not doing this for shits and giggles. He's not doing this to help all the fighters because he's a nice guy. It's not even a racial thing. He's not even just helping all fellow black fighters out. He's signed white fighters and Oriental fighters. He's got all kinds of fighters. The bottom line is Al Heyman is a businessman. And every deal that he cuts for these fighters, he's getting a cut of. So he's going to get the best possible deal for them, which means the best possible deal for him. It's not rocket science, Sal.
No. People don't realize that. And, that's bringing it to the forefront. This is the business of boxing. And boxing is a business. And people look to hang on the backs. And like I said, fighters are commodities. And how many people can utilize and work and maneuver and live make a living off a fighter? It goes on and on. Promoters, trainers, cutmen, managers. It goes on, and each one feeds another group. advertisers, this, that, everything else. It's a whole thing. Boxing is a business.
It's no listen. There's no doubt it's a business. But getting back to one of our main topics today, which is the Badou Jack and vacating the WBA belt. This is where, and I agree with what you just said. Boxing is a business, and at the end of the day, and contrary to what people might think, I believe that fighters should make the most money they possibly can. All right,
Absolutely. I agree
that a fighter is not at fault for trying to make the most money that they possibly can. But where I have a different opinion of other fighters' path choices is I believe that boxing, the nature of this sport, and the history of this sport, I believe that the only way to rise to the top and to prove that not only are you the best in your weight division during your era, but if you're that good that you want to be considered as an all-time great, you got to do great things like the all-time great fighters do. And that starts right off the bat with fighting the best available fighters of your time in your division. And Badou Jack, a guy who I'm a huge fan of, a guy that the reason why I like him so much is because he was written off. I wrote him off myself. And this was a guy that was coddled. He was brought up to a fight, to an opportunity. It was supposed to be a showcase fight, and 2 seconds, a couple of minutes into the fight, he's on his back, knocked out cold. And everybody, including myself, thought that was the end of Badou Jack. Instead, he goes back to the drawing board, and he's gotten better and better and better every fight out. And it culminated with him winning a world title less than a month ago against Nathan Cleverly. Now, this belt, which he got an opportunity to fight for from the WBA, he's kicking to the curb because he wants an easier fight for another belt rather than fight his mandatory, which is Dmitry Bivol, who many regard as one of the top light heavyweights in the world. And more likely than not, it looks like Badou Jack might challenge Adonis Stevenson for his WBC belt, which is not a challenge. Adonis Stevenson is done. This was a guy that's been avoiding every top fighter for years now. I even forgot, Sal, when we were talking last week about the light heavyweight division, we mentioned, every name but Adonis Stevenson. And that's because the guy has been irrelevant. It's not even in the discussion anymore. It bothers me that Jack is taking this choice because he had built up so much and had done it the right way that, he could have been a household name. He could have been a superstar. And then yet by him kicking and I'm not even putting in perspective why. I mean, if I feel one belt is worth more than the other, I'm not even saying that because that I don't value the WBA belt at all. But just the nature of him, wanting to sidestep Bivol, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, Sal.
Well, I know, and it is what it is, and you called it out, and I agree with you. It's a tough one to swallow. Give up one belt for another. It doesn't make sense.
But the point is don't you agree that to be the best, you got to fight the best?
We've said that throughout the show all the time, Bill. These fighters got to challenge themselves, and that's the difference. We want to look at who could we fight to prove that we are the best. And if there's someone out there that is touting that he's the best, or he's ranked, or he's this, that, higher than myself or another fighter, yeah, you want to go and you want to challenge and you want to make sure that you remove that question or doubt from anybody's mind that, hey, I'm here to fight, I'm here to beat you.
I think the sad part here, in my opinion, is that Badou Jack is following the advice of Floyd Mayweather. And
you think so?
I know. Listen, Floyd Mayweather is sitting there telling him, hey, look at all the money I've made for cherry picking and picking the right opponents at the right time. You do the same. And, it goes back to what I said. I have this feeling that Floyd Mayweather, even though he's retired, and even though he's got nothing left to prove, that he doesn't want to share the limelight with anybody, whether he's active or not. And anytime one of his fighters start to rise and get more recognition, they do something like this. I got to take a break, Sal. When we come back, we're going to have Dax Khan join us and get his thoughts on a bunch of stuff. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks, like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and 3-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-493-9652 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-493-9652 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-493-9652.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. And speaking of being with us, joining us right now with his thoughts on the fights from the weekend and some of the news we've been talking about is Dax Khan. And now we got his video. What's up, Dax?
What's going on?
Got it!
You finally got it, huh? Tell me Sal was helping you with the technical issues because he's such a...
I was. That's a whole other story, Bill. Forget about it.
I know. I'm trying
I saw this button. I saw that button. I said, let me hit this.
Don't touch any buttons. He should sit on his hands. But, Dax, first and foremost...
Well, what happens is I have a hard time working this like Bill has a hard time pronouncing names.
This is true. But listen, let's start off with the fights first because I know we got a lot to talk about. The fights, I thought that this weekend's fights, with the exception of Joseph Parker, were all excellent fights. Starting off with the Friday night fights, Valdez winning, retaining his WBO featherweight title against the Cervania guy, Genesis Cervania. I loved the fight. I think it showed some chinks in the armor of Valdez. I want to see more of Cervania. But what was your thoughts in that fight?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, people came out and they expected Valdez just to blow Cervania away. But, you know, we'll get into this in a few minutes. We're seeing a lot of changes in the sport. Cervania is a perfect example, just like Rung Cervisi was with Roman Gonzalez. We're not understanding, or the majority of the fans aren't understanding, that there are quality fighters from everywhere, and this is what happens, and this is what fighters should be taught when they're young. Never underestimate any opponent. The UK is a great example. These guys with 10, 20 losses, they must be horrible fighters, but they've been knocked out once. There's a guy over there who has 60 losses. He was knocked out one time. Obviously, this guy can fight. He's what you call a paid opponent. You always reference them. Same thing with Cervania. He's a guy that had no recognition. He came over. Valdez thought it was going to be an easy time, but if you notice, like with Cervania, just like Sir Rung Visai, if you look at the legs on those guys, they have these big, thick legs, so they can take a punch. And, you know, Valdez, he thought he was going to go out there, blow this guy away. He was very reckless. He obviously needs a lot of work with his defensive skills, and Cervania capitalized on it. So I would like to see Cervania again. I'd like to see Valdez improve those chinks in his defensiveness, and I think, you know, he's going to be a top name, but right now, you know, he's a guy who I think kind of got his title a little bit too soon, as you allude to about a lot of guys of this era.
You know, the one thing I just want to mention about Cervania, you know, the thing that was strange about him when I was breaking down the fight, I had only seen a couple of clips of him, and this level of opposition by record on paper looked good. They looked tough. The problem was I just had never heard of any of the guys because he fought most of his fights over in the Philippines. You know, I guess that's hard to prepare for, but still, I don't know if I took it that Valdez took it lightly. I just think that he was going in his front of his hometown. He wanted to go for a knockout, and he was in there with a dance partner that was just a little too good. I mean, and like you said, I mean, he definitely has to go back and work on his defense. I would definitely do that. You can't have a young guy like that take as many shots as he took. He took some solid shots.
And that's not a wise decision, Bill. If you've got a young fighter like that in front of his home crowd with all that pressure, if you listen to the crowd in attendance, you know, everything that Valdez did from the ring walk on, they went crazy over. So that's a lot of pressure for a young fighter, especially when they're going in there against an opponent they really know nothing about. Again, you know, I was surprised, and I'm still surprised that nobody really knew, and a lot of people still don't even know that I speak to exactly where this whole title situation went with Sor Rung Visai and Roman Gonzalez and Carlos Cudras. You know something? That was Sor Rung Visai's belt, then Cudras got it, then Gonzalez took from Cudras, and then Sor Rung Visai got it back. But you know what? These people act like they have no idea who Sor Rung Visai is. You know what? If you followed the sport as much as you claim to, you'd realize that this belt has been going around with these three elite fighters. But obviously you're not following the sport very well, or else you would know this. Same thing with a lot of these promoters, it seems like, when they're setting up these fights for their fighters.
The co-main event on Friday, Dax, was equally exciting, and I got to give Jesse Hart a lot of credit because I wasn't thinking that he was going to do that well. He's been coddled pretty obviously throughout his career, but man, did he put on a show, and no pun intended, displayed a lot of heart in his fight with Ramirez. I actually thought the fight was a little closer than the scorecards. I think we saw the same thing with Ramirez. He demonstrated that you know, maybe his defensive skill isn't that great. Once he couldn't get the knockout in the middle to late rounds, it seemed like he ran out of gas, and he himself was rocked a few times in that fight. What was your thoughts on that one?
Me and you had spoke about Ramirez a few times, and I said, you know what? He's not the same fighter he was before he won that belt from Arthur Abraham. You know, against Abraham, he fought a smart fight. You had to say to yourself, okay, he did the right thing fighting an established veteran that we know is tough. But, you know, when he defended that belt against Bursak, he seemed content just to go in there through the motions. And it was also the same thing against Jesse Hart. Once he scored that knockdown, I think, you know, in his mind, he figured it was over, and he didn't expect Hart to bounce back like that. And as the fight wore on, he got a little bit discouraged. And later on, he got a little bit tired. You notice he was leaning in with his head. He had his hands down low. Jesse Hart showed he's tough. And he showed a lot of, you know, he's not actually the most technically sound guy, but, you know, sometimes that toughness can get you to a lot of places. And I think if that fight would have went a round or two more, he'd actually beat Gilberto Ramirez and would have stopped him, because by that 11th round, Ramirez just had a look on his face like, you know what, I wish it would be over already.
He did. He did have that look. All three of us loved the World Boxing Super Series, and this past weekend didn't let us down. Junior Dorticos took care of Kutuzov in 2 rounds. What's your thoughts on that one, Dax?
Well, you know something? That World Boxing Super Series is something special. I've been saying this, for a while. Just the atmosphere there, the way they had it set up. Jimmy Lennon being the ring announcer and not Michael Buffer. And that's nothing against Michael Buffer, but Michael Buffer's a guy that, you like to bring in there. And when a card's not going well or people don't really seem that enthused for the main event because of such a poor undercard, Buffer's the guy that gets everybody's adrenaline flowing again. When Jimmy Lennon, he has a way of making, no matter what event it is, makes it seem like it's the biggest, most important event in boxing at that moment. I don't care if it's 2 pro debut guys. It's just something about his voice. The broadcast team was excellent. BJ Flores, he was icing on the cake because he was non-biased. He gave educated opinions. The way that in between rounds that they would break down the fights, they didn't concentrate on one guy or the other. They made sure they focused on both guys' successes and weaknesses. BJ Flores, kind of gave an input on where each guy's head was, not just in the main event, which was very short, but throughout the whole card. Dorticos versus Kutuzov, as they come down to the ring, the lighting, the atmosphere, everybody, you knew there was going to be a knockout. It was just like, I don't want to blink because when's this knockout going to happen? The first round was very tactical. You could see neither guy wanted to make a mistake. Kutuzov had those, every punch was with bad intentions. He had a high guard. Dorticos kind of felt him out, but then, in that second round, Dorticos took advantage of his punching, of his superior speed along with that punching power and that well-placed right hand. The second that Kutuzov went down, you knew it was over. It's not like one of those overly dramatic knockouts that people go, oh my gosh, because the guy flies back and through the ropes. It's like he literally just folded and collapsed. When a guy does that, where he just drops, like, he came from the ceiling, it's over, and it was exciting. So you know what? Right now, that fight and that card really just built up the anticipation for what's coming next. I really can't wait until next week, the fight between Bradis and Perez in Lithuania, and I really can't wait until October 21st when I'm going to be in New Jersey at the Prudential Center to see Murat Gassiev against Christoph Lazaric. So you know what? This is something special. It's super, and you know what? It's another hint of what's going on in this sport.
The Jorge Linares fight, I thought was extremely entertaining. Luke Campbell, I thought might have squeaked out that fight. Towards the end, he seemed to be landing the more meaningful punches, worked the body well. But Linares looked so good in the first half of the fight. Did he look that good that carried him through the win? Or did you think he won that fight? What was your thoughts?
Linares is a great fighter. He always has been. I remember Linares against Antonio DeMarco, the first fight. And I remember Manuel Stewart was one of the broadcast members. And Manuel Stewart was excited talking about the skill set. I think this guy might be the pound-for-pound best fighter in boxing. And you know what? Linares looked like it at that moment, but as I alluded to on Friday, and Linares has this habit of losing focus, and he did that in both of his losses against Antonio DeMarco. He seems to dominate so much that he feels he can cruise, and when he does this, he becomes defensively lax, and that's what happened here. But again, Luke Campbell is a guy that you have to remember. He's a former Olympic gold medalist. He was no showcase opponent. He's big, he's tall, he's very fundamentally sound. That knockdown rather in the second round, he wasn't hurt. If you watch the fight again, you see he was already in the motion of moving backwards. Their feet kind of got tangled. He got up and, because of that amateur experience, he was able to remain composed. And, that size, he's a big lightweight. The kid has a bright future. I don't think he's going to be able to remain in that lightweight division for very long because of the fact that, he's young and he had a hard time making weight. And the thing that you notice about Linares and Campbell is that they both have Cuban trainers and they both incorporate a little bit of the traditional style with that Cuban style, which makes it even more exciting. Jorge Linares, I do think that because of that early domination, built up a lead. But, again, that's a fight that, if later on or during some of those moments when he had that lull, if Luke Campbell would have scored a knockdown, I might have given that fight to Campbell.
Yeah, I thought it was real close. All right, now we've talked, Sal and I have talked extensively about the Badou Jack vacating the belt, seemingly to avoid fighting Dmitry Bivol. He was advised by his promoter, Mayweather Promotions, to do this. I hate this, Dax. How I feel about Jack. It's been a roller coaster for me. I thought he was overrated. You got to see him get knocked out. He knocked your drink over practically. And he has done nothing but come back and look better and better and better. And in my opinion, he's in the top 3 light heavyweights in the world today as the division stands. And the one guy I wanted to see him fight was Dmitry Bivol. And now his mandatory, he's walking away from that fight, and it looks like he's going to go after Stevenson. What's your thoughts on that whole move?
It's a tactical move, and it's sort of a move of necessity when you look at the landscape of boxing right now. Adonis Stevenson is 40 years old. He hasn't fought a quality opponent in a very long time. He's ripe to lose. He is, whether or not it's his talent level or just age, he's ripe to lose. And what do we need? We need another PBC or a Floyd Mayweather fighter to fill in his spot. And Badou Jack fits that role. And Badou Jack, in my opinion, will be somebody who actually goes out there and defends the title. The WBA belt, really, winning it, he won it in sensational fashion against Nathan Cleaverly, who's, a B-level type champion, is the best way that I would put it. So in terms of his career and money-wise, it was a smart move for him if that fight happens. But in terms of just vacating it quickly like that, without any explanation behind it, I don't know. I really don't know what to say, whether it's bad management. But, again, I do think a lot of Badou Jack. And so I don't think Badou Jack is ducking anybody. I think this was more of a career decision, a financial decision, rather than him ducking Bivol.
Sal, you've heard us talk about this for a while. What do you think? I mean, has your outlook changed at all on the Badou Jack situation?
No, I mean, it's like we said, if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck. It's a chicken. It is what it is.
You mean if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and swims like a duck, it's a chicken?
It's a chicken.
Yeah. Hey, Dax. Also, the signing of Daniel Jacobs. At first, they were talking about him coming back November 4th. Now it looks like it's the 11th, which makes much more sense. Good. I can't see them trying to compete with Deontay Wilder against Luis Ortiz. He was supposed to fight on that undercard. Now it seems like HBO is rebranding Daniel Jacobs. I like Daniel Jacobs. He showed us a lot. His value seemingly has skyrocketed after his fight with Triple G. What's your thoughts on the announcement of the deal with HBO and his signing with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Sports, and the fact that Al Heyman is still in the picture, at least for a few more fights?
Well, he does have a few more fights to fulfill with Al Heyman on his contract. He has to do it. But as far as the Wilder undercard, I think, it's a wise choice now because he's going to be the headliner down at the Nassau Coliseum, and I believe that Jarrell Big Baby Miller is going to be on the undercard. Daniel Jacobs, he's a guy that, kind of got tired of that PBC curse. A lot of people, because of that KO loss of Daniel Jacobs and because of the quality of opposition they were putting him in against, he wasn't getting the respect he deserved. Going into the Triple G fight, he had 12 straight knockout wins by, some quality fighters in that division, at least the best that Al Heyman was willing to get him. But even the domination over Peter Quillen got him no respect. Why? Because Peter Quillen, again, was a guy whose most viable opponent was Andy Lee, where it was a draw. So, nobody had too much stock in Peter Quillen. And because of how easily Daniel Jacobs beat him, just kind of, put the exclamation mark of, Peter Quillen was a manufactured champion. Now, the Gennady Golovkin fight, even though I'm not for that weight hydration, he did it smart, and he showed not only is he strong, but he's also a guy who has a good chin, and he's also an elite caliber fighter. Daniel Jacobs is the one that contacted Matchroom Boxing. They didn't come seeking him. Also, Daniel Jacobs right now with the exit of Andre Ward out of HBO. HBO is looking for a guy to brand, like you said. Andre Ward is a good ambassador for the sport. He's always humble. He's a solid fighter. He's better than solid. He's a pound-for-pound fighter, and he's very marketable. He's the anti-era, more or less. He's the guy that's totally opposite of what we're seeing of a lot of the big stars. Daniel Jacobs fits that bill. He's a nice, humble guy. He's well-spoken. He goes out there, he puts on a solid performance, and he's exactly the type of guy that HBO can use to fill in that Andre Ward spot and turn him into a superstar. Now over with Matchroom Boxing, as I keep saying on this show, and I've alluded to for weeks and weeks, Bill and Sal, I keep saying, what do we see going on in this sport here? Daniel Jacobs sees what's going on. He knows what he wants to do for the betterment of his career. So in my opinion, good for Daniel Jacobs, because if he stayed here, he wasn't going to get any of these big fights. Go over there. British fans are already sitting there saying they're calling for the head of Billy Joe Saunders, and they want Daniel Jacobs to be the guy that takes it. So you know what? Daniel Jacobs, not only can he be HBO's filling guy as this, the fighter that they're pushing, but Daniel Jacobs can also become a megastar over in the UK. We've seen guys in the past do it. That's how Steve Cunningham, at a time when the cruiserweight division received no recognition in the United States, that's where Steve Cunningham built his career, except now with more of the pay-per-view, more of the interaction, and more of the online streams, Daniel Jacobs is able to incorporate himself overseas and bring that fan base that he has already over here. It was a smart move on his behalf, and I really think Daniel Jacobs is going to bring his career to a next level, and I'm happy for Daniel Jacobs, because you know what, the guy deserves it.
I got one last question for you, Dax, and I want to get Sal's opinion too. Jumping back to the light heavyweight division, you mentioned the retirement of Andre Ward and possibly Daniel Jacobs moving into that slot. He does do a good job as a commentator. We had an email that mentioned that Roy Jones Jr.'s days might be numbered, and I certainly hope so. I mean, I would love nothing more than to get a whole new HBO broadcast team as well as a Showtime broadcast team. And while we're at it, might as well get rid of everybody at ESPN too. But my question is, a fight like, light heavyweight, Bivol, if you start looking at these guys, Bivol and Badou Jack and Stevenson and, a couple of the other young fighters, could you see, and I'll start with you first, Sal, could you guys see Andre Ward being coaxed to come out of retirement to fight one of these guys if they become, the established, and even the return of Kovalev, the established king of the light heavyweight division? I mean, do you see him coming back? I was saying last week that I didn't think we saw the last of him, that he will come out of retirement. Do you think he will, or do you think he's going to stay retired? What do you think first, Sal?
Well, if you look at the underlying issue here and what he was proclaiming, and you think it's to be true, that he just no longer has the heart desire to put his body through the demands of training and the mental toughness and focus and everything else, and that he is married, he has children, he wants to get on with his life. If you look at all the aspects of why he may truly be retiring, and if you believe him, predicate on those issues, no, I don't think you can lure him out. But if it's part of the ploy to get some demand of future big gates, which I don't think he needs because he's still active, he could still fight, he could still make some title defense against formidable opponents. They won't touch him, they won't beat him, but he'll make a living. The bottom line is, I don't think, if he's really retiring for the reasons he proclaims, nobody's going to get him out of retirement for those reasons. Number one, because now it'll be stamped and said on paper that he no longer has the heart and desire to put his body through what he's coming through. And you know what? Was he going to come up and all of a sudden say, hey, I'm going to give my best, I'm really ready, I just need a break, I need a rest? I don't think so. I don't think he's that kind of guy. He kept a low profile throughout his career, so I don't think you're going to see much of the antics and things that normally other fighters will do. So, I don't know. What's your opinion?
Well, my opinion, I'll wait to hear Dax's first. Dax, what do you think?
Well, I agree partially with Sal. Andre Ward doesn't seem like that type of guy. But also, on the other hand, he is a fighter. We know, and history has proven, the fighters get the itch. Andre Ward isn't past it. It's not like he's retiring because his body is physically declining. Yes, he lost that desire, but, when fighters at that level, all of a sudden they get that itch, they want to come back. I have one more big fight in me. But, again, Andre Ward, I would think the money would actually have to be right for him to come back, not just to come back for a fight of an average person that, he's used to getting. It would have to be something really big. And I don't really know if Andre Ward, wants to do that. He has other avenues inside his career that he can do. I believe he's still going to have an announcing gig. So, it's one of those things where time is just going to tell. So, but Andre Ward, at first I thought, this might be a ploy to see how many people want him to come back. right now, I'm really not sure. If he does ride off into the sunset, leaves it where he is, good for him. He retired undefeated. And what he did was he retired undefeated, and he fought nothing but the best throughout his career. It would be nothing but a shame if he returned to fight guys at a lower level.
Well, in a perfect world, we would hope that all of that is true. I personally think he will come out of retirement. I think it is a ploy. I think it might backfire for him because he never was a draw. And I also agree with you, Dax. He definitely fought the toughest guys available to him in both. Well, most of the toughest guys available to him in the light heavyweight division, and definitely all the toughest guys available in the super middleweight division. I think that he is waiting to be begged and coaxed and thrown a big payday at him. I just don't think that it's going to happen. I think he's going to come out of retirement, but not because they're throwing so much money at him. Everybody is going to have such a huge demand to see him. I think what's going to coax him out is the accolades some other fighter will be receiving as the best light heavyweight. Maybe Dmitry Bivol, maybe Badou Jack, who knows. But I don't see him staying retired. I just think that he wanted to get out of his contract with Rock Nation. He didn't want to have any strings to anybody for some reason ever since he broke free of his last contract prior to Rock Nation, that he felt that he could call all the shots and make all the moves, and it didn't really work out that well for him. I don't want to see another Kovalev fight, that's for sure. But
no, forget about it.
No, but
no, none of us do.
Hey,
the Joseph Parker Hughie Fury fight was, that was that was the only dreadful fight of the weekend. No.
Yes, and what's even worse is that they tried to compare Hughie Fury to Muhammad Ali. It's just sickening. That guy had no business. Hughie Fury had no business fighting for a world title, and quite honestly, neither did Joseph Parker. It kind of puts an asterisk next to the heavyweight division and all of the accolades that I had been given the WBO, because everybody never gave the WBO the credit it deserved. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years back, they had the best champions, and now they seem to be reverting back to wannabe guys. And Joseph Parker, no disrespect to Parker, he's one of those guys. And for him to say that he's got the tools and he knows the secrets to beat AJ, come on, AJ will destroy him. And the only fight that is in demand right now in the heavyweight division is to see the winner of AJ and Pulov against the winner of Deontay Wilder and Ortiz. That's the next fight that we're going to see in early 2018 to keep the ball rolling. That's my thoughts.
I think Joseph Parker, we got overexcited. I think what a lot of fans, including myself, thought is we were going to get a bigger, younger, improved version of David Tua. Unfortunately, that's just not it. If Joseph Parker was a pressure fighter, if he had the punch of a David Tua, he was as fast as David Tua, he had the chin of a David Tua, you know what? You might have the best heavyweight in boxing, period. Hughie Fury tried to go out there with that Tyson Fury style that Tyson used against Vladimir Klitschko, except, Vladimir Klitschko, even at that stage, had the power to knock you out with one punch. Joseph Parker, not so much. I was almost like Nostradamus this weekend, literally on social media. I had texted on, I had posted on early Friday morning. I said, there's some big changes coming in boxing. These changes are happening. They're right in front of fans' faces. And unless you are hand-fed and believe everything what is told you by the media outlets and the PR, you should be able to see these changes clear as sky on a summer day. Now, there was a keyword and a hint inside of there that people should understand. And I've been, again, talking here about, how the fighters, example, you had Luke Campbell against Jorge Linares, guys who were based usually over in Japan or in the United States. Here on TV, you got the World Boxing Super Series. You have the Daniel Jacobs signing with Matchroom. And then now, Carl Frampton is going over. He's going to be with Frank Warren. Do people not see what's going on here? If you can't see what's going on here clearly, this is not the sport for you. Either that or I can sell you a bridge. You don't need media. You don't need anybody else to tell you what's going on here. And by the end of 2018, all these big promoters, as I said here last week, Bill and Sal, all these big U.S. promoters, they are going to be the guys that are, especially with the PBC going out of business, a lot of these guys, these big names, like not big name, but guys like DeBella, where are they going to go? Because they're not going to have anybody to attach their names to, and it's going to be nothing but the UK promoters that are going to be running this sport completely, and all these US promoters here, they're going to rely on the UK, and everything is going to be reversed. The UK is going to be the biggest thing in boxing. They're going to be all over the world, and the United States is going to be the Eurobum version of this era.
Listen, I gotta take a break, but let me just comment. You know, I've been saying that UK has been carrying boxing on their back for years, and to suggest that the promoters out of the UK are going to run boxing, that is 100% correct. And the reason is because they built their promotional companies they built a good foundation for their promotional companies. They built them from the ground up. These guys in the US, with the exception of Top Rank and Golden Boy, who have been around so long, you know, the Lou DeBellas, who also been around so long, these guys have all jumped into bed and followed the dollar bills. That's it. That's all they care about. They have no foundation. And as soon as the money leaves, they will leave. And people forget, Lou DeBello used to be the guy for HBO. To get all the boxing. And then he started with his own promotional stuff. So, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Listen, guys, Dax, I appreciate your comments. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we got some more news to talk about. And then some. So don't go nowhere. We'll be back. We're going to be back in 2.
Maybe Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and 3-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-493-9652 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-493-9652 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-493-9652.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us today. And, Sal, I get criticized a lot about...
No.
Yeah. I get criticized a lot about the simple fact that I'm not a fan of Floyd Mayweather. And the truth of the matter is I'm not a fan of Floyd Mayweather because I don't like the person that slaps around women and, all that stuff. And his style of fighting never interested me. I don't like guys that run. But I've never, ever thought of him as being a guy who didn't prepare 100% for fights, because he certainly has. A guy that maintained his being in shape. A guy that thought things through 100%. And he's definitely an all-time great. Not the best. He's in my top 25 as of now. That will probably change over time. And he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. So with all that said, the one thing I am going to say is that it seems that when Floyd Mayweather puts his hand on things, that they don't seem to, unless it's for himself, they don't seem to work out. A great example of that was Adrian Broner. Another move that's fresh in the news is this whole thing with Badou Jack. But something that just came over the news that we were just informed, and we will talk about on tomorrow's show once I get all the facts. Apparently, it's alleged that Gervonta Tank Davis, the guy who Floyd Mayweather has taken under his wing, who won a title, and then the first defense against a layup opponent comes in overweight and loses his title on the scale, apparently has been arrested for assault. I don't know any other specifics about the case, except that they're holding him on $100,000 bail, which means that's pretty major. Without us really knowing all the details, Sal, and we'll obviously talk about this on tomorrow's show, what's your initial thoughts hearing that this kid is in trouble when, let's be real, Gervonta Davis has shown nothing but great, what's the word I'm looking for, potential. I mean, this is a guy that, the skill set that he shows right now, all I kept thinking, and how young he is, all I kept thinking was, man, we're going to see some great stuff out of this guy. And then all of a sudden, he becomes Floyd's guy. He loses his title on the scale. He gets arrested. Is there any connection?
That's a big question here. The environment itself of boxing usually does keep people off the streets. It's a venue that some troublesome people have chosen. All walks of life have chosen to box and see how good they can be and how good they can evolve to be, and things. But Gervonta Davis, I was a big fan of. I thought he had a lot of the great tools that would propel him to stardom. And he talked a good game. He seemed humble. He seemed like he was coming up. And the first thing, when the guy can't make weight for whatever reason, he decided to not make the scale go in his favor. It shows something there other than just the discipline and just what we like to see from fighters that are paid a lot of money and to do what they got to do. The top fighters. There are those that struggle to be where these top fighters are. Some of them make it, some of them don't. But the bottom line is, I'm a little disappointed in Gervonta Davis. I didn't know he'd follow this route. Although the last fight, when he didn't make the weight, and he also touted and looked a little cocky in the ring with his opponent, I lost some respect for him. And if this is going to be the way he goes, this route he goes, his career is going to be a lot shorter than what we first anticipated, first saw from this rising star. And is there a connection with Floyd Mayweather? I hate to think so. I really don't. I think it's just who they surround themselves with. Who are their people that hang around and pat them on the back and tell them what they want to hear and what path they want to be brought down or follow themselves going down. I don't think it's Floyd Mayweather's fault. I think everybody has their own accountability and their own way to look in the mirror and say, hey, this is me. This is what I'm going to do. So I can't blame Floyd Mayweather for this.
Well, the thing is, we'll have all the facts tomorrow on tomorrow's show. Floyd, and one thing I want to just say in defense of Floyd, Gervonta Davis has had problems before hooking up with Floyd. But a guy like Floyd Mayweather, and with the juice that Floyd has, and with the fact that a young fighter like Gervonta Davis, and even Badou Jack, and any other fighter that would be fighting under Floyd's banner, should look up to Floyd. And Floyd, I hate to use this word, but Floyd kind of owes it to them to keep them straight. They're not going to be Floyd. There's not going to be another Floyd Mayweather from a historical perspective. So Floyd should look out for them. Floyd should direct them. Now, if Floyd tries to direct them and they don't listen, I'll be the first to defend Floyd. But, if he's just throwing money around and painting a different picture, I don't know. All I know is Gervonta Davis loses his title on the scale. He's out of shape in that fight, huffing and puffing. He wins the fight, doesn't have a title. Now he's arrested. I don't know. It's not looking good. Anyway,
it's not good. Not a good path, and hopefully he can catch himself and bring himself back up. But it could be that slippery slope we often see go down.
This is true. On this day, September 25th, in 1939, Billy Khan wins a 15-round decision over Melino Bettina to retain the world light heavyweight title. It took place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This was the rematch from 2 months earlier, which took place on July 13th in 1939, when Khan took the belt from Bettina at Madison Square Garden in New York City. On this day in 1893, George Little Chocolate Dixon knocks out Solly Smith, in the 7th round of a scheduled fight to the finish. And in case you guys don't know what that is, normally they had these fights to the finish, meaning somebody had to win by knockout. To retain his world featherweight title took place in Brooklyn. On this day in 1896, the same George Little Chocolate Dixon retains his world featherweight title by fighting Tommy White to a 20-round draw at the Broadway Athletic Club in New York City. That fight not being scheduled for a fight to the finish. And finally, on this day, September 25th, in 1962, one of my favorite all-time fighters, Sonny Liston, knocks out Floyd Patterson in the first round to win the world heavyweight title. Took place in Chicago on this day in 1962. Hey, man, that concludes our show for today. Don't forget, if you take the time to drop me an email, we'll take the time to read it. Just email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.